It's official. Google has rolled out a product reviews update that is specifically targeting affiliates who write product reviews. So this update's not a core update. It's going to be looking directly at product review articles, and it's got a bunch of new guidelines about what they see as a good product review. So over the next 2 weeks as this rolls out, we can expect to see a lot of volatility in the SERPs and a lot of very unhappy people who are going to see their affiliate sites tank. In this video, I want to look at the 9 pieces of information, these 9 guidelines that Google has given us on what makes a good product review. Now, any Amazon affiliate worth his salt from now on is going to be focusing specifically on these 9 key points in order to make sure that they're creating product reviews that Google approves of. And my guess is that a lot of course creators woke up this morning and are rewriting their modules on how to create product reviews. So let's take a look at what Google has said. So Google's advice is this update is designed to better reward product reviews that share in-depth research rather than content that simply summarizes a bunch of products, a spokesperson told Search Engine Land. So then they provided in their press release 9 bits of advice. Let's have a look at the 9 bits of advice on how to write a product review that will rank on Google. Number 1. Does your content express expert knowledge about products where appropriate? So I found a really nice article that I think does this quite well. So it's about DIY desk setups. If you're feeling a strain and it's led you to wonder whether it's worth investing in a better, more ergonomic office chair, the answer is almost certainly yes, according to experts we spoke to. Quote, makeshift setups can cause a laundry list of products, including back, shoulder, and wrist pain, explains Dr. David Perner of Black and Body Medical, and they've linked out to him, maybe to his LinkedIn or something. Then it's got another person, Dr. Mark something, an orthopedic surgeon based on Long Island who's affiliated with New York University, agrees if you're sitting for a long period of time in one position that's not natural or a bad position from a postural standpoint over time, that's going to break down your spine, end quote. So here we've got an example of people acting more like journalists than affiliates, and they're actually getting expert advice before going on and reviewing content. Now, I'm sure that you're looking at this and going, how on earth am I going to be able to do this? I'm not a journalist. I'm some introverted SEO sitting behind a computer screen. Well, here's how you do it. Go to helpareporter.com. At helpareporter.com, it's Haro. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. Instead of signing up as a source, sign up as a journalist. Here's an example of someone who's done that, and they're trying to get advice on food. So this person says, hi all, I'm writing about food that can keep you up at night and affect your sleep. I found that cheese or fried food like potato chips affects sleep according to some research. Can you answer these questions? Why do these impact on sleep? How early before bed should you eat them? Are there other foods that affect sleep, etc.? So that is going to go out to all of the people out in the world, all these experts who want to become sources for a article, and then some of the experts will respond, and this person will probably find some good responses. So you can do this yourself, sign up as a journalist. Here's an example. If I was going to do an article on outdoor boxes, storage boxes. So I've got my name, my category, my email, and then my query. Hi all, I'm writing about outdoor storage chests. I'm seeking experts to answer a few questions. 1, how can weather affect outdoor furniture? 2, does outdoor storage affect rodents? Pest control, experts welcome to answer this. And then further advice or insight from any experts also welcomed on the topic. So based upon that question, I might get some responses and I can quote them like this. When looking for an outdoor storage chest, the biggest mistake you can make is getting one that isn't airtight. According to James Thompson from California Pest Control Limited, outdoor storage, quote, attracts mice, rats, and spiders to your home, which can lead to nasty infestations. Following the expert advice of James, we made sure to select chests in our best of list below that were all airtight to prevent rodent infestations. So I would recommend maybe having a go at using Haro as a journalist rather than a source to try to find expert quotes on anything that you write a product review about. Separately, I've also had people who emailed me. I had this one guy last year email me and he said, Chris, what you wrote in this review is wrong. I completely disagree with it. Here are my points why, and I'm actually a professional in this niche. And I emailed him back and I said, I'll give you $100 Amazon voucher if you can review all of my articles and I can put your photo and reviewed by at the bottom of the the articles. And he said, yeah, that sounds great. I gave him $100 and he reviewed all the articles and provided quotes for all of the articles, and the articles are so much better for it. So hopefully I have covered this, but we'll see. I never trust Google to get anything right. So a lot of nerves in the next 2 weeks to see whether or not anyone's website will crash. So the next piece of advice: does your content, quote, show what the product is like physically or how it is used with its unique content beyond what's provided by the manufacturer? So for this one, ideally you would want to actually buy the product and take photos. I know that most people are not going to want to do that because it will cost too much money, especially for a beginner. But here are some things you can do. One thing is you can actually go to Reddit and look up the product on Reddit and see what Redditors are talking about. They provide a ton of really good, in-depth, detailed advice that's going to go beyond just what the manufacturer says. So in this example, I was looking at office chairs and I got this one person who said, my problem with these Herman Miller chairs is I'm fairly big and tall. So if you're reviewing a Herman Miller chair, maybe you are going to want to talk about the fact that they're not great for people who are big and tall. He also has some other advice, like the price not being too bad and that the bucket style of the chair forces him to sit in a nice way from his experience. So these are experiential pieces of information that go just beyond, the size of the chair and what it's made out of. It actually says these are some people's real lived experiences. And if you compare, I'll talk about Reddit quite a bit in this video, because if you compare how people on Reddit talk about a product compared to how product reviews talk about a product, Reddit is full of so much better information because it's first-hand experience. Use that first-hand experience, read about it, quote it or link to it in your product review so that you're giving a much more rich description and explanation to the readers. Okay, number 3, does your content provide quantitative measurements about how a product measures up in various categories of performance? In my opinion, what Google's referring to here is the use of quantitative comparison tables. So here's one: best lawnmowers for small yards. And it's giving me the cutting width, the cutting height, the power of the motor, and the warranty length, all compared using quantitative measures. So, you can quite easily tick this off by creating a nice detailed table, and you might even win that featured snippet with a table snippet. Okay, number 4, does your content explain what sets a product apart from its competitors? In my opinion, what you're going to want to do here is to use comparative phrases. Remember that Google is just an algorithm, it's not a person. It's going to be looking for indicators in your text that you're comparing products. So comparative terms are like, however, while X, then Y. If you need X, consider Y. Unlike product 1, product 2 does something. Product 1 performs better than product 3 in a certain category. So use comparative phrases as much as possible to try to address this point. Number 5, does your content cover comparable products to consider or explain which products might be best for certain uses or circumstances? So in my opinion, I'm not a very big fan of product reviews by thespruce.com. I am always surprised that they rank so highly because the quality of them, in my opinion, isn't as good as many other websites out there. But one thing the Spruce does is it does always at the top talk about what the product might be good for certain types of people. So they've usually got best budget, best, high capacity, heavy duty, best for grilling in this circumstance, and so forth. So the Spruce does this point quite well in saying which product is good for which circumstance, which I think will tick off this point for Google effectively. Number 6, does your content discuss the benefits and drawbacks of a particular product based on research into it? The first half of that, discuss the benefits and drawbacks of a particular product, sounds a lot to me like they're looking for pros, cons lists. But the second half, based on research into it, I think is them saying, you don't just want a bland old pros cons list, you want some details afterwards. So for example, here's a pros cons list about best mowers for smaller yards. Pros: cheap, lightweight, maintenance free. Cons: takes more effort to push, small cutting weight. Very brief pros cons list. I don't think that it goes beyond what Google is expecting for a pros cons list. Here's ones that's slightly better. It's got a lot more detail. In red, I've underlined the fact that they've actually made sure their pros con list is focusing on the intended buyer. So here, best microwaves for seniors. In the pros cons list, it talks about seniors several times. Whereas if I flick back to the previous one, best mowers for small yards aren't really mentioned explicitly at all in this pros cons list. So I think the pros cons list for best microwaves for seniors is more detailed, it's much better, and I think Google would reward these more detailed pros cons lists. On top of that, I would choose to go to Reddit when I'm doing my discussion of drawbacks, because again, Reddit will provide some really detailed negatives about a product. So for example, back to Reddit here, we're talking about the ergonomic chairs again. I feel like it sits at a weird angle and actually sticks into my back rather than supports it. Now that review there is from someone who clearly owns the product. You're not going to find that sort of thing in a generic affiliate review, product review article. The content quality on Reddit is significantly better than any content quality on any affiliate articles out there at the moment. Use Reddit as a resource to find good, detailed answers to questions that go beyond just manufacturer descriptions. Number 7, does your content describe how a product has evolved from previous models or releases to provide improvements, address issues, or otherwise help users in making a purchase decision? Now, they have at the end there, or otherwise helps users in making a purchase decision. So they're leaving it open for you to come up with any other ways in order to help users make a purchasing decision. But because they've mentioned how it's evolved from previous models, I assume that in the future, this is going to be a point that a lot of people are going to be focusing on. So for example, here's a comparison between the iPad Mini 4 and the iPad Mini 5. It's saying they have little in common. I think Google's algorithm will be very easily pick up right here that we're comparing the iPad Mini 4 and 5 because it's got that phrase, they have little in common. It's also got a H2 heading above it with the phrase differences. I think that this review bit here would probably quite effectively answer this point that Google is looking for. Okay, number 8, does your content identify key decision-making factors for the product's category and how the product performs in those areas? For example, a car review might determine that fuel economy, safety, and handling are key decision-making factors and rate performance in those areas. Sounds again a lot like they're looking for a table, a detailed comparison table. I went to Alex from WP Eagle and his Best Roof Box website. I think he does this quite well. In his Best Roof Box Buyer's Guide, he talks about all the different features that you should look for in a roof box when choosing which one to buy. And then after that, he has a table comparing all of those features between each product. I think that's the sort of thing Google's looking for here. It's looking for articles that can dissect a topic or a category based upon the key buying decisions, just like Alex has done here. Okay, and then let's move on to number 9. Describe key choices in how a product has been designed and their effect on the users beyond what the manufacturer says. So here, 2 points to look at are design considerations and making sure that you go beyond just the manufacturer's description. So one thing I did is I went back to Reddit again and I looked for reviews and I did a search for the phrase quality, because what I was looking for was people saying good quality, bad quality, and going into depth about the quality of the design that goes beyond just what the manufacturer says. So here's an example. Someone's talking about the build quality of a ergonomic chair, and it says, this chair, which I've only used since 2014, has the material of the left arm completely destroyed, so I've had no choice but to remove the piece of sharp stainless steel that's left. What a detailed piece of advice that you can put into your product review. So you can say, I've heard from people who've had this chair for a certain amount of years that this specific part of the product fails first. Now that's a really nice detailed bit of information that goes well beyond what the manufacturer's description is going to say. Okay guys, so there's a lot in there, and they're my sort of hypotheses about ways in which you can address these new guidelines going forward on how to write product reviews. Those of you who have got product reviews out at the moment, I hope that you manage to get through this update in the next 2 weeks unscathed. I hope that I get through the next 2 weeks unscathed as well. As I said, I'm never trusting Google to make the right decisions here, so let's cross all our fingers and hope we can all make it through the best we can, especially those of you who have genuinely written really good quality reviews.